Okay, I've just had confirmation that a few more people have joined, so good morning everyone. Welcome to this vMeet for the childcare sector in South Wales. It's lovely to see so many faces this morning. My name is Rhiannon Fletcher and I'm a National Account Manager with the Educ8 Group, which incorporates Educ8 Training. The purpose of today's vMeet is to provide an opportunity for all of those in the childcare sector to come together and look at the challenges we're all facing now, the likely future challenges and potential opportunities that are likely to exist as we come out of lockdown in Wales, and really try to look ahead and see what a post-COVID-19 world may look like. To do that, we've invited some guests along this morning who are experts in their field, who can give us a great insight and advice that is specifically relevant to the childcare sector. There'll also be a question and answer session after each guest speaker, so it will be a great opportunity for those of you on the call today to ask me specific questions. We really hope you find the next 45 minutes or so useful and worthwhile. I'm sure it will be. Before we start, please can I just ask everyone to mute your microphone so we don't hear any background noise. If you would like to ask a question as part of the Q&A session, you can use the raise your hand function that's situated under the participants tab. Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so our first speaker up today is Emma McCutcheon. Emma is part of the Educ8 family. She's our quality manager and has been with us for the last 3 years. Emma has over 20 years experience in post-16 education, initially within further education, then moving on to work-based learning. Emma is also a qualified peer inspector for ESTIN. Today, Emma's going to provide an overview of the current mitigation and how our team at Educ8 have adapted to support our current learners. Emma will also be providing a brief update on the new qualifications that are starting in September. Emma, across to you.
Diolch, thank you, Rhiannon. Bore da, good morning, everyone. As Rhiannon just mentioned, I'll give you a brief overview this morning of the mitigation rules for learners on current programmes, a little insight into the new Level 4 and Level 5 qualifications due to be launched in September, and just some feedback from our training consultants on how well your learners are engaging with us. So firstly, overview of current mitigation. As you know, we can't currently conduct observations with our learners and with your staff out in the field. So City Guilds have provided us with some mitigation guidance to support learners progressing if they are due to complete up until the end of July. This mitigation, in a nutshell, is they need to have completed 70% of the duration of their qualification, 70% of credits within their qualification, sufficient health and safety and safeguarding evidence, and direct observation assessment. We are identifying learners who meet these parameters and then using adaptive assessment methods such as professional discussion, witness testimonies, to support them to complete the remainder of their qualifications as planned. Learners who do not meet these requirements have to be delayed until we can conduct direct observations in setting, or further guidance is provided from City and Guilds on the next steps as we come out of COVID. Learners on the new qualifications, which are the core and practice qualifications, started last September. We are continuing with the teaching and learning for learners on these programmes, so they will be ready for summative assessments when we can administer these in August moving forward. We just want to assure you as well that whilst all these mitigations and adaptations are being launched and communicated from City and Guilds, we are working very closely with them and Qualification Wales to ensure that the adaptive assessment measures support us in this sector, your learners, and support their progression. So the new Level 4, Level 5 qualifications, these are exciting opportunity for learners who want to progress from a Level 3 but are not ready to take on board a management role or are not in a management role. So we have a Level 4 specialist qualification, for example, supporting children with additional needs as a stepping stone for our learners. There is also a level 4 theory and project-based qualification, which provides learners with the knowledge and understanding of leadership and management practices within their sectors. These qualifications then would provide them the underpinning knowledge and core teaching and learning requirements to progress them to the level 5, which is a hands-on senior management qualification. And then some feedback from the team. Educ8, we are very impressed with how the sectors continue to support CPT, engage with us and progress with their qualifications during this current climate. We have been able to sign off 90% of learners during this time, which is a great achievement for our learners. Our assessment team are working flexible hours to support learners' individual needs, working evenings and weekends, and providing much needed pastoral care in between visits. We, as many of you may be aware, we have an online Moodle which provides digital resources to our learners. We've seen an increase in engagement to these interactive resources, which supports learners working remotely and independently and has supported them progress with their qualifications. And that's the main part of my update. Diolch, and thank you all for listening. And back over to Rhiannon.
Thank you all. It's really great to hear about how our learners can still continue their learning journey despite everything that's happened. And I think we're all really proud of the statistics that you've mentioned this morning. Emma's got to shoot off now, everyone, but if you do have any questions, please can you pop them in the chat function and we'll make sure that we get them answered for you. Apologies, I did also forget to mention at the beginning that this meeting is being recorded. There are a couple of people that wanted to attend today but had other commitments they needed to attend to, so they've asked if we can record and share that with them. Okay, so next up we have Jane O'Toole. Jane is the Chief Executive Officer at Clwbiau Plant Kids Cymru. Jane, over to you. I believe you've got some information as part of the introduction.
Yes, I have. My colleague Naomi Evans, Regional Manager for South East Wales, is also on the meet. So she's sharing the PowerPoint and hopefully we're going to do a seamless presentation that will hopefully go okay. Thank you, Rhiannon. As Rhiannon said, my name is Jane O'Toole. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Clwbiau Plant Cymru Kids Clubs. We are the umbrella body for out-of-school childcare clubs across Wales, and we are the voice of the sector. We are one of the Cullen partners and sit on strategic groupings through with Welsh Government, Care Inspectorate Wales and Social Care Wales. We also sit on the Play, Education and Training Council and QSAG. What do? We support over 1,500 out-of-school childcare clubs, offering 43,000 places. We have childcare business development officers supporting all 22 local authorities across Wales. They support out-of-school childcare in every aspect of their business. Alongside them, we also have a team of training officers that support their training needs. The benefits of having staff working closely with clubs, staff and managers, listening and understanding to their needs, gives us the evidence that we need to talk to Welsh Government to inform them of clubs' issues and concerns and allow us to feed into policy. It also allows us to develop projects around those needs and attract funding to support the sector through training and development. Some of our current projects are the People and Places, Tesco Centenary and Work Welsh. You can find more information about these on our website. We are also an accredited training provider with CASH, City Guilds and Educ8. As far as our training resume goes, it's quite extensive. I'll quickly go over this. Our accreditation with CASH sees us gain excellence across the board. We're accredited with Educ8 to deliver safeguarding and essential skills, as well as play work, and our evaluations show that 97% of our learners would recommend our training. We've achieved over 1,500 play work qualification achievers. We are experienced in developing and delivering workshops and qualifications to improve the quality of care, play and learning provided to the children in clubs. We're also a work-based learning provider, and we have an excellent staff base that know their play work and their out-of-school clubs and are passionate about what they do. They're intrinsically motivated and to help the sector excel in the delivery of quality play work and childcare. So what I'm here today is to talk to you about the response that we've done against COVID-19. With our Cullen partners, we've lobbied Welsh Government, we've offered lots of support to the sector, we've developed guidance and resources. As part of our lobbying as an umbrella organisation that sits upon strategic groups, it's allowed us to ensure that we have not only supported Welsh Government colleagues, but also been the voice of the sector with decisions that have been made. We've had at least weekly meetings with Welsh Government throughout the crisis. It's been excellent working alongside them, being able to deliver the voice from clubs on the ground, telling of their plight and how they've not been able to access funding, they've not been able to access their venues, struggling to access the grants that are on offer. As a Cullen partner, we've acknowledged and addressed the following issues that are currently affecting the sector and continue to address these with Welsh Government. Many parts of the sector, as I'm sure you will all know, have been unable to access funding over and above the furlough scheme. Settings that are voluntary managed, especially those that are unincorporated clubs, have not been able to access anything. Clubs that have charitable status have not been able to access funding without taking on the liability of a 25% loan, which they don't actually know how they'd be able to afford to repay at the end of this. Also, clubs with limited liability structure, where the owners are paid through dividends, not through PAYE or self-employment, they've been unable to access any funding either. We're currently working with Welsh Government to address this shortfall and are working with them to look at a pot of funding for those many settings who have, in all intents and purposes, fallen through the cracks of the funding that's been available. As many of you, I'm sure, will acknowledge, the Business Rates Relief Fund was only accessible to those settings that that were maybe larger providers who may own or occupy their buildings. Also, the Economics Resilience Fund, the criteria in the initial round didn't fit the childcare sector with an £85,000 turnover and limited liability needed. And even despite us lobbying, the new iteration of the fund will see it inaccessible to most childcare providers, especially the out-of-school sector, due to turnover or constitution. We've had meetings with Care Inspectorate Wales, Social Care Wales. We've been a part of campaigns to support the sector, the hashtag Diolch campaign and the We Care campaign video. We've done this to promote the sector that remained as an integral part of the COVID-19 response as teachers, but were often not recognised. As an organisation and with our Cullen partners, we've undertaken surveys and collated data, allowing us to feed into consultations on the impact of COVID-19 on children, young people and the Welsh economy, as well as support Welsh Government with their guidance. We've written letters to ministers and written blogs on the following subjects, which continue to blight the survival and indeed the revival of the sector. Subjects such as the lack of access to school premises to the childcare sector to allow them to revive, the possible intention of some local authorities to utilise unregulated childcare during the holidays instead of supporting the revival and the survival of the registered childcare sector. The need for sustainability for the settings that do attempt to revive to meet additional costs and social distancing and reduce capacity and thus reduced income and increased costs that will go hand in hand with that. We've also, along with Cullen partners, done interviews on the plight of the sector, both on TV and on radio, and the need for funding for the sector to survive. Having the knowledge of the sector and working so closely with Welsh Government has allowed my passionate team to rise to the challenge of developing what is needed to help the sector revive, and allowed me to communicate those that need to appreciate the sector. As far as the support that we've given to the sector, we've been proactive throughout. Lots of ring rounds to ensure that the sector understands their responsibilities. We've run round to gather data and to ensure that they don't miss the boat, really important things such as furlough, which could impact their sustainability. We continue with our proactive approach and with our expert staff knowing what the sector needs and developing a whole raft of resources to assist its revival. We've been lucky that we've got our People and Places National Lottery grant, which will continue to help improve the governance of settings, ensuring robust management and hopefully increased registration as a CIO or with CIW. Clubs have commented that they would not still be standing without our support. Members of PETSI have praised us for the extent that we have supported the sector. Trustees of clubs have said that they've benefited hugely from the information and support provided. Our learners have, on the whole, as well, continued to progress and have been supported to create evidence from day one. In addition to that, of the training team continuing to work on ways that we can cover performance criteria. The TOs themselves have learnt to utilise new platforms and to allow those that want to continue learning. As part of the guidance that we've issued, we've listened to settings, we've listened to Welsh Government and to Care Inspectorate Wales. We have, because of our knowledge of our settings and because we have people working on the ground to support them, developed over 40 pieces of sector-specific guidance to assist with the reopening of settings. The protective measures guidance that came out from Welsh Government has included the out-of-school childcare sector because of our input. As you'll know, our sector sits often between early years and education. And if ever anyone has attended a meeting with me, they will often have heard me say, don't forget about out-of-school childcare and what about play work, because we're often forgotten. As far as the resources that we've made, I can't express how proud I am of the team of people we have working for the organisation. They are, as I said earlier, intrinsically motivated to make the sector survive and make the process of doing so easier with this wealth of resources. These are just the ones that have been published. There are loads more on the way. They're all on our website and you'll be able to access them there. I think though that one of the best pieces, one of the best resources that as an organisation we've developed and I'm most proud of is Playworking after COVID-19. This is also available on our website. Following receipt of a draft of the protective measures that we had in the early days from Welsh Government for us to comment on to make sure that the sector was included. Two members of staff realised that social distancing was here to stay for the foreseeable future and that settings would need some practical support on how to facilitate play in such a context. These members of staff, both passionate play workers, as well as utilising other staff's experience, as well as using their own children for playing to create the images for the publication, brought the Playworking after COVID-19 resource to life. I'm not sure if you've seen a copy, it's been on social media, it's been on our website. I hope you'll agree that this has been developed with play and children at heart and will be a resource for the future. I'm going to do a bit of shameless plugging now, I'm afraid, while I get the opportunity. We are a membership organisation, but we made the decision early on in the crisis to allow settings, regardless of whether they were members or not, to access our COVID-19 resources. We did this to help support the sector to survive by extending our membership year. We understand and are passionate about our clubs. We want to do everything that we can to help them survive. We welcome the voice of our members and their input into everything that we do. It makes us the organisation that we are. However, we are a charity and we do not have an endless pot of reserves. So at the end of May, we had to close our 19-20 membership year. We hope now that those clubs that have seen our team support them over lockdown will go on to reciprocate joining or indeed becoming a new member. You'll see some of the obvious benefits on the screen of membership. Great value from only £50. What you don't see is that there's a team that have the out-of-school childcare sector at their heart, and they're there for you and to support and help you however they can. So if you'd like to become a member, please visit our website. That's my very quick update on where I feel that the sector is. I'm sure none of it is really news to you, but just to let you know that we are still there fighting with our Cullen partners to ensure that the sector is allowed and supported to revive, and that it can go on to thrive in the future. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Jane. That was very informative. We're actually going to open the Q&A session now, so if anyone has any questions for Jane, please can you use the raise your hand function, which you'll find if you click on more and the 3 dots at the bottom of the screen. That will bring up the participants tab. Under that then there's the raise your hand function. Alternatively, you can just message in the chat and we can bring you in for your question with Jane. Any questions?
I must have covered everything.
I know we've actually got our Chief Executive Officer, Grant Santos, on the call. Jane, Grant, do you have any comments or questions? Or?
Yeah, thank you, Jane. That was really useful and really informative. I guess the challenge is now with as the sector reopens and as the country reopens now is the impact on the sector. And also, do you see an impact or foresee an impact where the home working and the change to home working practices may have an impact on childcare and out of school nurseries and so on and so forth, as maybe more people actually stay to work from home and therefore maybe use less childcare facilities?
I think that there is certainly many aspects of how we'll move forward that will make childcare look very different. I think that we will have to look at the home working. More people are working from home. I know that my team have adapted to it, and although we see children and cats and everything in our team meetings, everyone seems to be coping. Whether that can continue long term, I'm not sure, but I think there will be a reduction in the use of childcare, especially in the early days. You know, I see probably into the next year, but we still need to do all that we can to ensure that the sector is there to support the Welsh economy. Childcare is actually part of the foundational economy of Wales, and so it's really important that we make sure that it can not only survive, that we help it revive and go on to thrive, so that we're there when the parents are ready, both to return to work themselves, to offices or to other businesses. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one, I think. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I'm involved in the Cardiff Capital Region Skills Partnership and look at and chair the Human Foundation Economy part of that. And one of the things we're talking about is where there's been a lot of messaging and communication previously about the foundation economy being a low-skilled, low-pay sector. And in reality, if you look at what's happened over the last few months, particularly, where the foundation economy has basically kept the country going and has been at the forefront of keeping people safe and healthy and working. And so I feel there's an opportunity here for us to really promote and really get the message out there about the positive impact on the foundation economy for the country over the last few months, and actually that we start changing our message, change our communication. And we've written a number of blogs, and we've written to ministers on several occasions about that fact, about that in order to rebuild the Welsh economy, they will need to have childcare, and it needs to be supported to be there, you know, for the future. I think one of our most worrying aspects for the out of school sector as well, and possibly the playgroups in Cylchoedd, is that there's no appetite to allow visitors back into school settings, and we understand that, but I don't see out of school as a visitor. I see it as going complementary, hand in hand with the school. If parents need to go back out to work, it's very unlikely that the majority of parents will be able to work just within the school hours. They need that breakfast and they need the after school club, and they also, you know, need the holidays. Not everyone will be able to take 6 weeks off, or 5, whichever county you happen to be in, over the summer, and you know, we will need to be there to help them get back to work.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Thanks very much, Jane. Really appreciate you stepping in today and providing such an informative update for everyone on the call.
Thank you.
Okay, so on to our next speaker. Elaine Jones has worked for Early Years Wales since 2000 and was appointed West Wales Regional Manager in 2005. Today, Elaine is going to be talking us through the pre-opening checklist that has been put together by Early Years Wales. Elaine, over to you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Am I unmuted?
Yes.
That's fine. So that's the first bit done. Okay. Basically, when Early Years we thought we looked at was how do settings actually prepare for reopening, and I see you've got the checklist there in front of you. What I really want to do is just briefly go over the main points of this list. Basically, what we were thinking about was obviously who they have to inform. So they have to check. Actually, they have to check actually if they're allowed to open, if the building they're actually in, if it's a community centre or a church or any part building, are they actually allowed to open and get permissions from that? And obviously they have to make sure they've got all the procedures and everything in place. Obviously as well, they have to make sure that they look at the Welsh Government, the Welsh Government guidelines, so prevent the protective measures in childcare, so they actually know, they have the guidance there of what they have to do. So assuming that they have done everything like that, contacted insurance, and most important as well, contact CIW to let them know they're opening, and they can go from there. As Jane said as well, part of the problem we have in this sector there will be sustainability. So they actually have to find out exactly how many parents are going to actually return to the sector. And this is a difficult time just now, because obviously you've got different areas just now who are going to have 3-year-old funding, some areas aren't going to have 3-year-old funding. So different things like that they have to consider. So that's why we sort of look at the finances and be realistic. How many these children can they take in, bearing the social distances in place. Have a realistic budget so they know exactly how much going to come in, how much they're going to be coming out, as well as the other aspects of opening up. Look at all the, I know it sounds really basic, but look at all the extra expenditure, such as your extra cleaning, your extra equipment you're going to have to buy for the staff, the PPE equipment, and just make sure that everything like that is under control. And obviously, you have to do all these risk assessments, not on a weekly basis, but on a daily basis, and actually throughout the session to make sure everything is getting clean and tidy as well. So where do we get information from? Obviously from your umbrella organisations, and obviously our assessment will come to us, or if the members of Midiad or members of Club AI as well. So if I go to your umbrella organisation, you get all the help and support you can get. Look at the Welsh Government, make sure the guidelines are there. And I also think we have to emphasise it's actually the Welsh Government, because I'm seeing so many things on Facebook that they're looking to England. And I think we really have to emphasise that we are not England. And by my accent, you can tell I'm from Scotland, obviously. So where we might keep an eye on what's happening in England and in Scotland, we have to focus and make sure that the settings understand they look at the Welsh guidelines and not look at the English guidelines. And I think my concern as well is having watched the news this morning and what was happening yesterday is that Wales and England seem to be getting further and further apart in how we're coping with the virus. So very much make sure we look at the Welsh settings. As I said earlier, what we have to do is make sure you inform people that need to know you're opening. So that's your CIW, your landlord. Also your insurance, contact your insurance, because different insurance companies are actually asking for different things before sessions can open. We've had some insurance companies wanting to hear from parents, signing parent declaration forms. So make sure you let everybody know, including your insurance, your local authority, exactly that you are opening. From a settings point of view as well, they'll need to look at things like the statement of purpose. The chances are that is going to have to be written or looked at before they can open it as well, and that's part of the CIW registration. Also, you might well have had put in some COVID-19 policies. So again, look at all your policies, in particular your cleanliness of the toys, your PPE, but also your hand washing policy, because that's so important that through all this, that children and staff have a hand washing policy. They really make sure they wash their hands. Something basic, like don't rely on, I know that hand sanitizer can be used by staff, but if you're using hand sanitizer on children, we would actually, they've got to be parental permission for that. So just assume that it's just hand washing and not relying on the sanitizer, apart from the staff, obviously. Right, so if we look at preparing your premises, and I think that is where it has to start. Look at how can parents enter the premises, how can parents leave the premises? Can you have a one-way system, so one door in, one door out? Are you picking look at how you're going to collect the children from the front door or the back door? Where do you put the parents, the social distancing? All that things has to be looked at. Also, how are parents going to pay for the sessions? A lot of sessions still use cash, and I know a lot of people in particular are not happy handling cash anymore. So make sure you have some method of payment, so that if it's not having cash, are you using Ping It? Are you using different things like that, just to see how parents are going to pay for that, because I know a lot of people have got an issue with using cash. Okay. Also need to look at your fee structure as well, because are you going to change that? Are you going to have less or more as you're coming out? I'm looking at the layer of the settings. So I've got two different laptops here, so sorry. If I look at a layer of the settings, just basically how are you going to work that out? How are you going to have the children in bubbles, and how are you going to sort of keep them together and keep a same adult with the same children? It's also so important. Also look at the area of the room to make sure how many children actually with social distancing can you actually have in that particular area, and also what toys are you having. You know, take away the things that can be easily washed, that's ideal, but if they can't be easily washed or easily cleaned, think about how you're going to do that. Children will need to be discouraged, and this is going to be the difficult one, from sharing toys, because children like to share, they like to play together. So it's getting that idea of they can't actually share the toys, they've got to put things away properly and do different things. Things like Play-Doh, is it possible to give each individual child their own individual sort of bag of Play-Doh to play with? Because obviously things like that can't be unified. Books, this is one that we've been really thinking about quite seriously, is how do you work in the library? Because also we know that paper, the virus can sit in paper for at least 72 hours. So therefore, if a child is in the library and they do have a book, they therefore have to put that book in another box or somewhere where it can be kept safe for 72 hours before it can be used again. So therefore, this might be an ideal time now to think about actually having more story time as opposed to using the library. If this setting is lucky enough to have outdoor space, then make sure that the children can be outside as much as they can, because obviously we do know that that is the best. That is one of the safest places for a child to be, is the outside. And I mentioned earlier on that deep cleaning, it is not required, but it is a very case that makes sure when was the last person in the setting, and if it's been 5 days before opening, then they have to look at what surfaces have been touched. Okay. what it's not the case, what we're also finding as well is that some settings have been finding it difficult to get hold of cleaning materials. So again, all that needs to be looked at to make sure that they can have the cleaning materials they need. Do they need a changing facility for staff to come in to change it out of what they're wearing before they come in? If we're looking at staff, I think obviously as an employer, your most important people are your children and your staff. So therefore, if you've got any staff concerned about coming back because of an underlying health condition, or they've got parents at home or other people, make sure you are sort of sympathetic to what staff can come back and what staff can't come back. And at this time as well, we have to be so aware of all mental health well-being. You might be fine to work one day, and the following day you wake up and the whole world can be on your shoulders, and that's not going to be easy to judge. So just try to make sure you talk to your staff on a daily basis or on an hourly basis. If you see them having a bad day, try to just to support your staff through that. What we need to look at as well is, are the staff up to date with all the training? They should be up to date, but are they aware of the protective measures, and are they aware of the toolkits available from the preventive measures, and also from the health point of view, so of the infection toolkit. All settings should be aware of the infection toolkit, but just make sure they are, so they see what everything has to be informed. Okay, look at that. We have to give parents the confidence to send the child to a setting. I think that is going to be the most difficult. I mean, I actually run, I'm a registered person for my own playgroup in the church, and we've actually been looking at opening, we're actually thinking of reopening in September, all things considered within the church and everything else. So we've been contacting parents, and it's very interesting how many not mixed mess, but different mess we're getting. We've got some parents who are really looking forward to the child starting back. Think, oh, it's great, they can meet with their friends, the children are excited to come back. But we've also got parents that are saying, no, we are not happy with the situation just now. So therefore, we have to really sort of work on parents to give them the confidence to know that they're sending their child to a safe environment, and that's really up to us to make sure that we have all our policies and procedures in place. Okay, that's basically I've gone through the toolkit. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Elaine?
I've got a question for you, Elaine. First of all, thank you for your presentation. That was really useful. My question is really about supply and demand, I guess, and what your view is as we come out of lockdown conditions. Supply in terms of the capacity within the network, in terms of childcare places, particularly in light of the restrictions that settings are going to have to work under, and whether you think that capacity is going to shrink, that supply of places will shrink, and what you think is likely to happen with demand against a backdrop of potentially record unemployment, and whether you think one or the other could be vastly out of kilter with the other. Could we have over demand, or could we have oversupply?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I think the problem we're going to have is we've got to look at unemployment will have risen. So therefore, in many ways, I would say that the demand could fall in some cases, because the unemployment is going to rise with people who were in work before the virus and now going to be out of work. So I think we've got to look at the sustainability, I think, for settings is going to be very difficult as they try to find out. And again, that's where I think this checklist is important, is actually have to try and find out how many parents are actually going to be coming back to this setting, because if they're unemployed, they might not need the childcare. Perhaps the playgroups will have an advantage in that parents might still want children to come just for that 2 hours or 2.25 hours to have a play session with other children. So I think it's a mixed message we're getting, and we honestly don't know what's going to happen. But I think I'm being realistic. I think I see a lesser demand, but that's just me. We don't know until we know what happens. It's getting the confident parents back to send their children out. And if they're not,
if you think there might be a drop. Sorry, I beg your pardon. If you think there might be a drop in demand, do you think that could be compensated for by a lessening of supply? If, for example, settings can have less children in due to the distancing and restrictive measures that we're going to have to operate under?
Well, they'll still have to have the CIW regulations, and they'll still have to have a number of staff per children. So I think it's going to be a very difficult time for the sector, to be honest, because nobody knows exactly how parents are going to react, how many staff are going to be needed. But also need to remember as well that obviously we're going to have social distancing. We're also going to have bubbles, perhaps. So we might need, in some ways, you might need more staff.
I wouldn't want to put anyone on the spot, but if anyone who's running a setting is on the call, do you have a view on that in terms of the number of spaces that you're able to offer as we come back, and what the demand seems to be like from parents? What have you found out with your own customers?
Sorry, Tim. Jane O'Toole would like to come back in.
Sorry, just a bit of information that I've got around the supply and demand. I know one county in North Wales are looking at the holiday care, and they've asked us to do a piece of work on what settings have an appetite to open during the holidays, what their reduced capacity will be. And we all know that that reduced capacity may not be sustainable because you'll have fewer children attending, but with the same on costs of staff and premises, etc. They're looking though during the holidays at the attendance in the hubs for critical workers and vulnerable children that has happened over the last 12, 13 weeks. And they're looking at that, and then looking at the capacity within the sector that are able to open. So I think that there is a little bit of concern around what's going to happen. Will there be sufficient capacity in the sector that are able to open? We've still got the issues around being able to go back into schools, which I think is our biggest stumbling block at the moment. And I know that I've spoken to many day nurseries that have got capacity reduction. I think the one that I spoke to from 48 to I think it was 32, but and that's using a lot of outdoor space. So, but their costs are going to be the same. So, you know, the work that we're doing with Welsh Government to try and get a fund to help the revival is you know, ever more important, because if there isn't something there, then I think that the implications for the sector as a whole, no matter what part of the sector, is going to be pretty dire.
I think furlough has an impact. So I think while settings can still be part furloughing, that's how a lot of the holiday clubs are managing over the summer. So even if there is either reduced demand or reduced capacity due to social distancing guidelines, where they can't have maybe as many children as they would normally have, the fact that they've still got the furlough scheme up till October, that they can be part furloughing staff, is supporting to an extent. I think the issues are going to come in the autumn term, where that is no longer an option and where employers are having to contribute more in terms of employee pay. And we're then going to see if the capacity is still an issue in terms of social distancing, or if the demand is not there because of parents still home working or parents being made unemployed. I think that is when we're going to see the issue, because there is going to be then they're not going to be able to continue meeting their staffing expenditure. They're going to be faced with having to look at redundancies, which no one wants, because it's difficult enough to recruit suitably trained, experienced staff. And we're going to be faced with settings having to lay staff off when we know that at some point the demand will pick up again. Employment levels will rise again at some point when the economy comes out of this very difficult phase, but we're going to have lost valuable play workers, valuable childcare practitioners in the process, and they are going to potentially look at other career choices. They're going to be looking at retail, which is maybe still recruiting at this point, which is really not what we want for the childcare and play sector.
Yeah, and it's a good point, Naomi. I think the potential for skills drain out of the sector could be large, and we will need it again in the future. And I think it's something for us as an organisation at Educ8, we need to have a think about to see how we can help with that problem, because I think it is something that's potentially coming down the line.
Okay, well, thank you, Elaine, for taking part today and your contributions. Very insightful for everyone on the call, I'm sure. And my apologies that our fire alarm went off at the very beginning. It shows how long I haven't been in the office for, and I completely forgot what day and time it went off. Okay, so our next speaker is Rick Selwood from Business Wales. Rick has worked at Business Wales for 3 years, and in his role as National Account Manager, Rick leads the team across Wales and works with 130 colleagues across all industries, supporting startup and small and medium-sized enterprises. Since the start of lockdown, Business Wales have helped secure around 12 million of investment for businesses, safeguarding over 3,000 jobs. Business Wales continue to support the childcare sector, and today Rick is going to talk about some of the funding and grants that the sector can access. Rick, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invite, everyone. And we're here to help wherever we can for any business that's out there that's in that SME category. The Business Wales service is available and open to everyone. If you want to get in touch, I'll drop our contact details into the chat after I've finished speaking to you. In the south, your team's based out of Bridgend, led by my colleague David Williams, got a team of about 70 advisors and support staff to help businesses with all shape, form and manner of requirements. I would just flag at this stage, sorry, merciless plug, because I've got to get it in there. We have a very wide range of COVID-19 specific webinars for businesses out there. So if you've got needs which are of a non-financial nature, covering anything from HR to how do you diversify communications with your customers, supporting employees, etc., please do have a look. We've put those together. There's about 15 different webinars, and those are running daily, and they are free to enter and come and have a look at. So please have a look at that. The other thing I would flag, in addition to the checklist that Elaine ran you through, is the Keep Wales Safe campaign run by Welsh Government. I'll also drop a link into that. That gives you the specific advice and guidelines to employers in Wales. So it is kept up to date by the Welsh Government on their website. So I'll drop that link in. In terms of the funding, recognise everything that Jane is saying. It's very difficult, and we've also been lobbying Welsh Government on a broad basis for the smaller end of the market. If you've been spying this and you are in that very small end, there is a new startup grant being put together, which the Minister pre-announced yesterday, and a further announcement will go out this evening around 6 o'clock, I'm told. So please don't hold me to that, because that's the Minister. What I can tell you about is the grant funding and loans and financial support that is available out there. It may not all apply to you. Some of it may not apply to you, and in fact, some of it, none of it may apply to you. But I hope that there's something in there for you. We've already heard about the job retention scheme. That closed to new employees going onto that scheme on the 10th of June and is due to wind up in October. That will be then a phased return to employers taking on their salary responsibilities, starting in August with employers paying national insurance and pension contributions. In September, then they take over 10% of that, 80% of the pay, rising to 20% in October, and then the scheme runs out at that point. That's the current news it is today. So if you haven't found the furlough scheme and need to know more details about it, then I'll drop the details in on that. Indeed, the national government has also done a lot around tax deferral, so that should apply to a great many people. The VAT automatic rules came in to defer any VAT due before the 30th of June and defer that VAT until the 31st of March 21, and any self-employed tax due before July of 2020 has been deferred until 31st of January 2021. But there is also the general HMRC time to pay scheme. So if you've got any tax issues that you're unable to pay, your best advice is to contact HMRC and go to their time to pay team. There is no interest or penalties to pay on any deferred VAT at this stage. Okay, Again, I'll drop the details in. Bounce back loan, the bounce back loan for those that are able to service that loan is available from £2,000 up to £50,000. It's a scheme backed by the UK government at 100%, run by the British Business Bank. But if you want to apply for a bounce back loan, you have to apply to one of the 23 accredited lenders. And there's a list of them on the British Business Bank's website. There is no repayment on that loan for the first 12 months, and the interest on that loan for the first 12 months is paid by the UK government. So effectively, it's an interest-free, no repayment loan for 12 months. So if that is interest to you, you need to get in touch with one of the accredited lenders, of which there is a selection. And please do shop around. There are different offers being put out by the different lenders, so you'll get a different offer. So it's worth shopping around. Mentioned earlier, non-domestic rates relief. That scheme comes to a close on the 30th of June. It's either £25,000 or £10,000, depending on whether you're £25,000 for retail, leisure and hospitality sectors, £10,000 for others that are eligible for small business rates relief. That's an application to your local authority, of which you can make 2 per local authority. So if you're a larger organisation that has multiple properties across different local authorities, you need to be applying to each one for up to 2 grants per local authority. But please do visit your local authority website, and if you have issues with that, then you can contact the team, who are pretty adept at working with local authorities. But you have until the 30th of June on that scheme. ERF, the Welsh Government grant scheme, is out there. That is there for those businesses that are not eligible for the non-domestic rates relief, which I've just talked about. There's up to £10,000 of grant available for micro businesses, £100,000 for SME businesses, and if there are any larger businesses out there, there's a substantial £690,000 or up to £690,000 grant for larger businesses. The ERF is round 2 is due to go live at the end of this month. And there is an eligibility tracker, or eligibility checker, sorry, I should say, on the Welsh Government website right now. So you can click through that to find out whether you are eligible. If you've got any particular questions, whether you're on the borderline of those trackers, please contact my team and they will help you through, because they've dealt with quite literally thousands of applications for that. Lastly, there is going to be a small business bursary. That is for businesses that we understand have started up since April 2019. The details on that aren't clear right now, and as I said earlier, there will be a announcement by the Minister tonight. I'm sorry, I'm having to rattle through this because there is quite a lot. I also looked through on the charity sector, so for those of you who are registered charities and aren't limited companies, there are a number of funds external to government that are available and been put out with a COVID-19 specific emergency relief on them. Some of the local authorities have put out changes to their community activity funds. If you don't know about those, you probably want to have a look around on your local authority website. There's a thing called the Sydney Albert Fund, which is a very small grant fund, but offers some money. There's Comic Relief, have put together a COVID-19 response, as have the Moondance Foundation. There are also 2 grants available from WCVA, one for the third sector and one for volunteering services, which are around about £10,000 in size. And the last one is to look at Community Foundation Wales website. They have also put a grant scheme together for charities. So there is some support out there for people who don't fall within a limited company status or partnership, or indeed a sole trader type status. I'm happy to take any questions. If they get really, really detailed, I'm probably going to ask to take some details and we'll probably come back to you. These conversations tend to get quite specific quite quickly. So if you have got a specific question about your organisation, then you're very welcome to contact me or drop a line to the Business Wales team and somebody will get back in touch with you.
Thanks very much, Rick, for taking part and sharing that information on the grants and funding available with us today. Anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Rick? No?
I guess one of the challenges is that there's an awful lot of support out there, actually probably more than many people expected to get us through this crisis. But for individual business owners, seeing the wood for the trees is quite difficult sometimes, isn't it? And is there one resource, and presumably your own website is where you'd recommend, but is there one place, one go-to place you think is outstanding for people to go and be signposted to support that could be relevant to them and their business?
Yeah, we're working with the Welsh Government, so we're contractors here. It's their website, businesswales.gov.uk website has got a good specific funding section on it, which highlights all of the available government-provided funding, and that's probably the best place to start. The second site I would recommend is your local authority, because it does vary regionally as well as specifically locally as to what local authorities are able to put out. If you have particular needs and you've got a very specific type of problem, I would just say please do contact the team either directly through the 03000 number on the website. There's email, or you can contact us on social media. There are details for my team directly, and we know that a number of childcare sector organisations are already registered clients of Business Wales, so please do get in touch. It's a struggle, Tim, and we have spent a lot of time working out what information is out there, what grant schemes, what funding availability is out there, and it does differ and it changes daily. What I would say is please do get in touch. We're a free resource. We're here to help and support you, and we'll give you the best information we can at the time and try and keep as many businesses as we can up to date.
Thanks, Rick. I know Jane O'Toole would like to come back in.
Sorry.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Rick. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good. Couple of questions, or a statement first, I suppose. As a Cullen partner, we are the experts on childcare, and no disrespect to Business Wales. Sometimes the information and knowledge of the actual sector isn't as good as our staff, and so always visit one of the Cullen partners websites or get information from there, because we know what you're able to access. You mentioned the the furlough scheme. I thought that was closed on the 10th of June. You can't now access it unless you've already furloughed somebody from the 10th of June. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, and that's what I did say, was that it's closed to any new employees going on to the furlough scheme. There is a little bit of exceptions to that. So if employees have been on paternity or maternity leave, then they can go on to the furlough scheme. But to all intents and purposes, you are correct. We can't put more new people onto that furlough scheme now.
Okay, great. The other thing was, you mentioned about VAT registration. Of course, childcare is VAT exempt, and so many settings won't be able to access the ERF fund. Because of that, they need to meet two criteria, that being a limited company, VAT registered, or with a turnover under the new rules of £50,000. How many childcare settings do you feel that actually, who haven't already accessed funding, actually turn over £50,000 and are a limited liability company? From the data that myself and my Cullen partners have submitted to Welsh Government, of around about 5,000 childcare settings across Wales, there's over 1,400 that have accessed absolutely nothing.
I don't have figures on a specific sector for that scheme, and indeed that scheme is being run by the Welsh Government.
Yeah.
It is run under the Business Wales banner. The scheme was never intended, from my understanding, to cover every single business in Wales of any sector. It was an amount of money that they had available, which they made available, and it's on an application basis. So that they've set the scheme guidance rules up. We've pushed and tested those rules. We're very pleased in this second round that they have listened to us, included partnerships and some sole trading type companies. But we don't answer to any specific particular sector, I'm afraid, Jane. But
no, I completely understand.
The lobbying that you've done is great to hear, and absolutely you should just definitely keep doing that and keep pushing them.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose 13, 14 weeks of frustration, and you're the first person from Business Wales I've been able to talk to. So, but yeah, I mean, the sector is massively falling down between the cracks, and even the ERF revised guidance, we were very, very disappointed. But we are looking with Welsh Government to find another pot of funding, and I've done quite a bit of work with the childcare, play and early education team to give some solid data about those settings that are missing out. So hopefully, if you keep an eye on our social media and our website, as soon as we've got any news, then we'll be able to distribute that for you.
Thank you both. Okay, so last slot on the agenda now. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how Educ8 can support you if you require any support from us. I won't keep you too long. I appreciate it's a lovely day and everyone probably wants to make the most of this nice weather. So it's fair to say that all businesses are going to need as much help and support as possible to get back on our feet again once the restrictions are lifted. Here at Educ8, we would like to play our part and provide as much support to the childcare settings of all sizes, and whether you're a customer of ours or not. There are a few things that we've thought of we think may help, the details of which will be sent to everyone on this call via email. Firstly, we can help with marketing. In the email, you'll receive a link to a simple form that you can complete. The form will detail what date your business is reopening, what times you're going to be open, and if you're accepting new children into your settings, and of course, how people can get in touch with you for further information. We'll then compile all of those forms that are sent to us, group them into geographic areas, and promote them through our marketing department to help inform members of the public when you'll be open for business. I appreciate that maybe not everyone will be in a position to complete the forms yet, but once you are in a position to send us that information, we can then help promote your business via our website, social media platforms, and by using all of our resources within our marketing department. Likewise, with recruitment, if you do have any vacancies that you wish to fill, we'll send you the details on how we can help promote your vacancy. We'll compile lists of vacancies that are available across South Wales and promote them again via our website, social media platforms. And we'll also have our customer account managers available to speak to every business that requires advice or support with training, sourcing staff, or re-engaging with the apprenticeship programme. All of the details will be sent to you shortly, but if Educ8 can help your business in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And myself, Jill, who's our childcare customer account manager on the line today, and anyone else within the Educ8 group, we'll, if we can help, we'd like to help. That's all that's left for me to say is thank you all for taking the time out to join in our vMeet today with this glorious weather we have. And a big thank you to our guest speakers also. I'm sure everyone has found the information very beneficial and it's given people lots to think about. Have a great day and enjoy the sunshine, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.